Alright guys, I'm not sure what happened, but the audio didn't pick up on this, so I'm going to voice it over real quick. We got the 120 in tow, and we're getting ready to do another job for Chris and John. Got another tree clearing job. Going to clear out a ditch line here, and of course, as always, we got a planter wanting to get in the field right behind us, so let's get started. Alright guys, we made it down here and got unloaded. There's like a goat path coming through here, and there's one retired guy back there, and he comes down here about once a month, and no more than I pull up right here to unload, he shows up once through, so I had to move for him, but that's no big deal. I was glad to do it. So here's what we got. Chris farms that field, Chris farms this field, but they're different landowners, and he got permission to take out all these trees down this ditch. That ditch actually got out, jumped, and went across that field, so that's what we're going to tackle, is remove trees from ditch. All right, so while we're sitting here kind of doing monotonous tree work, I figured I'd take a second to explain what you guys call the floppy bucket on my old 120 here. And I'll tell you why every time you guys hear clank clank or see wiggle wiggle, I hear cha-ching cha-ching. So here's kind of my, I guess this is kind of my business model in a nutshell. But I bought this machine off eBay, sight unseen. I paid $35,000 for it, delivered to my house. Now, whenever I did buy this machine, I did have a loan on it, and by the time I got that loan paid off, I paid about $6,000 in interest on this machine. So I guess my total investment in this machine, including interest, was about $41,000. Now, since I've owned this machine, I put about $15,000 into maintenance on it. That's everything from hydraulic hoses to bucket pins to oil changes to undercarriage, lights, grease. I'm trying to think what all I've done. But as far as everything I've done maintenance-wise, as far as repairs and preventative maintenance, totals me about $15,000, which is pretty doggone good. That's been a good machine. Now, I do carry insurance on this machine, and from the life I've owned this machine, insurance has cost me about $8,400. I used to carry, I just recently kind of dropped the value of the machine has obviously dropped, so I dropped my coverage a little bit, but over the seven and a half, 8 years I've owned the machine, insurance has cost me about $8,400. Now, this machine, on average, burns about two gallons of fuel an hour. So, I have, ever since I've owned this machine, I have 7,000 billable, oh, don't you do it. Get out of there. 7,000 billable hours on this machine. So just for the sake of math, for this conversation, if this thing burns 2 gallons of fuel an hour, 7,000 hours, that's 14,000 gallons of fuel. Average cost of fuel over the years is $3.25. Oh, come on. $3.25. Oh, you guys are gonna make me do math. So 14,000 times 3.25 equals, that's $45,000 fuel expense. Since I've owned this machine, I have paid an operator to operate this machine for me $87,000. This is the one machine that 90% of the time I'm running, but occasionally it does get an operator in it, depending on what we got going on. And operator expenses on this particular machine has been $87,000. So if you add that all up, and I'm just doing math in my head, so I don't have time to run the calculator here. I believe that's going to be somewhere close to about $200,000 worth of expenses on this machine, from fuel to insurance to interest, from initial investment all down the line. Since I own this machine, it's cost me roughly about $200,000 to own and operate. Now, I said that I had 7,000 billable hours. Now, as far as the hour meter is concerned, I actually haven't put that many hours on it. So you ask, well, how do you get 7,000 billable hours if you haven't ran the machine for 7,000 hours? Well, a couple different ways. One, I put about 6,500 hours on it. Now, some of those were also personal use, but one, that's a pretty good sign that you're doing a pretty good job of bidding if you got more billable hours than you actually have machine hours. Two, sometimes I charge flat rate fees, like for stumping or setting trusses or stuff like that. It's not a by the hour job, it's a flat rate fee job. And then you also got your jobs that end up being like 3-hour minimums, where you may only be there and put an actual hour on the machine, but you got to justify your time getting there and coming back. So you got to have a minimum hour rate to show up. Some guys charge mob fees. I don't do that. I just charge a 3-hour minimum fee within about 50 miles of the office is kind of the way I operate on that. So, with all that being said, my average billable hour on this machine is $125 an hour, which 125 times 7,000 is going to be 890 something thousand dollars. Is that right? I'm going to get my calculator out again. 125 times 7,000 equals, yeah, 875. So revenue off this machine has basically been $875,000, $200,000 in expenses. So what is, oh, getting ready to wear a tree. Go down. So that's basically $675,000 this machine has profited me since I've owned it. And I think if you do I did the math on this one time before, and you guys can double check me if you want to, but I figured that it basically cost me about $28 an hour to operate this machine. And this machine operates at about 76 to 77% profit. A lot of guys have probably paid more in interest to the bank than what I paid for in parts on this machine. So, is the bucket a little loose on it? Is it not a new machine? No, it's not. But whenever you got a machine that's dependable, reliable, and operates at 70, let's just call it 75% profit, it's hard to argue with that whenever you look at the checkbook. Now, you always get this argument that, oh, you got to buy new machines, you don't have downtime, you got to limit your downtime. Whenever I was doing a little bit of quick research looking back at this to have this conversation with you guys, I don't know for sure, because I can't calculate it exactly, but I bet you this machine has less than 10 hours of unscheduled downtime on it. If it's over 10 hours, it surprised me, and I can count most of them on one hand, and the majority of them were blowed hydraulic hoses. I blew a hydraulic hose one day digging an electric trench, shut me down for a couple hours. I blew a hydraulic hose one day loading topsoil out on a drive motor. That shut me down for about 2 hours. Blew a heater hose one day on a job. That maybe shut me down for an hour. Lost an injector one day, kind of got lucky on that one. It was at the end of the day. Probably lost about 2 hours on that. John Deere dealer had an injector in stock. I think it was about 75 bucks. Popped it in real quick, went back to work. And man, I think that's about it. I mean, it's been a pretty good reliable machine. Now, I don't buy this bull crap that you got to have a new machine to eliminate downtime. And I'm not picking on the guy by no means, but I mean, Jason Works a lot, just spent 70 grand on a brand new truck. He's already had more unscheduled downtime with that machine than I've had with this one over the last 7,000 hours. I mean, it's been a week in the dealership right out of the gate. We bought a brand new 60 horse John Deere tractor. The first month we had it, it was at the dealership for 2 weeks. So, just because it's an old piece of machinery doesn't mean it's a bad piece of machinery or not a reliable piece of machinery. There's two things that'll make a machine last and eliminate your on the job or unscheduled downtime. And it's not new machinery. The two things are preventative maintenance. You gotta schedule the machine to be down, to be maintenanced. And whenever it's time to change fluids or if it's time to change something, you need to change. Just like right now, I know for a fact the undercarriage on this machine needs to be changed. And there's a good chance I'm gonna buff the track pin out here one day. And that's gonna be my own fault. It's not gonna be the machine's fault. It's gonna be my own fault if this machine goes down because of an undercarriage issue, because I know it's wore out. The next thing is an operator. If you got an operator that knows how to get the job done and take care of the machine in the process, it makes all the difference in the world. And that's kind of like what I was saying with this machine hasn't had a lot of operators in it. And that's one reason I've probably had the success and been as profitable with it as what it is. Now I know not everybody out there has got the option to do that. I fully understand that. But now with all that being said, I am well aware that this Traco is getting to the point of needing some work to it. I've told you guys several times it needs undercarriage on it. The boom is actually relatively tight. It could use pins and bushings in a few places. The boom's relatively tight. What's loose on this machine, and I'll show you guys here whenever I get time to quit. I'm kind of in a time crunch here, so I gotta keep going. Is the coupler. Where the bucket pin goes into the coupler is just worn. And it needs to be welded up and line bored. And it's hard to. I ended up going through the 850 this winter, did a bunch of work to it to make sure it was good to go. And if I don't end up getting a new machine this fall, I'll probably end up leasing a machine for a month or two, and then I'll put this machine in the shop and we'll go through it, put pins and bushings in it, line bore the coupler, put undercarriage on it, and all that good jazz. So if this machine had air conditioning on it, I wouldn't even consider buying a new machine. I'd do a complete and total component overhaul on this. and keep on trucking along. This machine is the exact size I need for what I do. I have absolutely no complaints about it whatsoever, but it's got 12,000 hours on it. It's not a new machine anymore. I'm fully aware of that. So the other thing is by having machines that I can afford, I'm not a slave to my machine. If this, oh, I'm getting another treat. Come on, baby. Why'd you break off up there? There we go. Woo, that was close. I'm not a slave to my machine. I'll give you an example of this. You know, it's like the cat loader I got. I paid $7,000 cash for it. Did I really need a cat loader? No, probably not. I could do without it. But it paid for itself loading topsoil the first month I had it. It's opened me up to other potential jobs that I couldn't have done without it. And it sure is handy when I need it. Another example of that is I don't know if you guys have seen it on YouTube or not, but I own a man lift. Got a pretty good deal on it. My construction crew uses it a bunch. I basically rent it to the other company I own. And don't owe a dime on it. If it ends up sitting for a month somewhere, that's perfectly fine. The only thing I gotta do is pay a couple dollars for insurance. But if I need it, it's sitting there, it's available to go. It allows me to have a much more versatile fleet of equipment. And I would much rather have a much more versatile fleet of equipment than be stuck to one or two pieces of really nice equipment that I'm a slave to trying to make payments on. Some of these people want to go on and on and on about how nice and new their equipment is. Well, that's great, and I'm happy for you. But you know what? I don't let my equipment do the talking. I let my work do the talking. And if I can take the equipment I got and do the same work as a guy with brand new equipment, then what the heck's the difference? I've never had one person say they're not going to hire me because the bucket on my Traco is loose. I mean, they honestly really don't care. They just want the job done. They want a job done in a timely and professional manner. And yeah, this new equipment, it's probably a little more comfortable to run. It's a lot nicer to run. And you probably don't have to be quite the operator. But you know what? I've seen old timers take a dang cable blade dozer and run cable blade dozer with manual tilt and run grade better than a guy can with GPS. If you know how to operate, it don't matter what you're operating, you can get the job done. You may have to work out a little harder with some other stuff. But just because it's an old piece of equipment, don't mean it's a worthless piece of junk. And if you're one of those guys that thinks you need to have the nicest, newest thing so you can brag to all your buddies, then that's your deal, man. I have no qualms with that whatsoever. I'm happy for you, but that's just not the way I operate. Now, with all that being said, just because that's the way I do it, don't mean it's the right way, don't mean it's the best way, and it don't mean that that's going to be the way it is for everybody. So I'm sure some of you agree with me. I'm sure some of you will disagree with me, and that's perfectly fine. But that's kind of my overview and my thoughts. I know a lot of you guys see my flopping bucket and think, oh, I think it's just a wore out piece of junk. Well, you know what? It's not a piece of junk. It's actually in really good shape for its age. And ever it's out here running at 75% profit, 30, 40 hours a week with minimal downtime, minimal unscheduled downtime. It's hard to argue with the old girl. Now, this thing can catch fire, blow up, and burn down here in 5 minutes. I still couldn't have a bad word to say about it. It's done everything I've asked it to do over the years. It's basically expected to be a 10,000 hour trouble-free machine. It's done that. I'm living on borrowed time right now, so that's why I'm making plans for future to either rebuild this machine or possibly get a new one this fall. So that is the plan. So hope that makes sense to you guys. Like I said, just because I do it don't make it right. Just because I do it don't mean it's going to work for you. But I just wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit of an explanation of why I'm still running this machine and why I do what I do and how I got where I'm at. Not to go into, well, goodness gracious, tree, what did I do to make you mad? Not to go into a whole bunch of detail, but my whole thing is, for example, on my, I know I'm rambling on here. I apologize if you guys done gave up on me, went to the next video, but like on my dozers, for example, my very first dozer I bought, I did a job and traded a guy for a Case 350B. Now, if you guys ever ran a Case 350B dozer, it's better than nothing. That's about it. I mean, man, I gotta watch this bob wire. I'm gonna end up with it in my tracks, and that's not gonna be good. Case 350B dozer. Traded a guy for a job. I ran it for probably about 2 years. Made some changes on it. Sold it for like a $9,000 profit. Turned around and bought John Deere 450G. Bought it cheap because it needed undercarriage. Put undercarriage on it. Ran it for about 3 years. Sold it, made about a $10,000 profit on it, not counting the money it made while I had it operating it. I put a couple $100 on it operating it. Then I sold that and bought the D4G I got now, and basically the first two dozers paid for the one I got. And then, I don't know, one of these days I'm going to sell the D4G and upgrade again. I just keep working my way on down the line. As far as my big dozers are concerned, I started off with a Case 1450. Bought it out of the scrap yard. Ran it for a couple years. Made good money with it. Sold it, made a profit. Turned around and bought a straight John Deere 850. Ran it for, I didn't have it very long. It had some, it has a couple pretty serious hydraulic leaks on it. I bought it really cheap. I did 2 jobs with it. Turned around and sold it. Made about $6,000 on it. And then I bought by selling those 2 dozers, it basically paid for the dozer I got now, the 850 I got now. And that dozer, again, it's an older piece of equipment. That thing is in tip-top shape. That thing's got $11,000 on it, and it had a whole new hydrostat put in it about $3,000 ago. And it runs like a sewing machine. So same thing on my semi. The first semi I had, I actually bought a R model Mack. Bought an R model Mack out of Wade's, my neighbor in Logger Wade's. Bought an R model Mack out of his scrap yard. It was a truck they done gave up on and scrapped. Put some money into it. It was actually, whenever I got done with it, it was actually a really, oh, I'm coming back for you, Tree. I ain't in the mood to mess with you right now. It was actually a really good old truck, but it didn't have cruise control. It didn't have AC. It didn't get down the interstate very well. So I ended up selling it to a guy in Nicaragua, made some money off it, and turned around and put that money towards the truck I got now. I don't know if I'll ever get rid of the truck I got now. It serves its purpose really well for what I do. But that's kind of the progression of my equipment. Now I do use my track hoe more than I do anything else. I am heavily dependent on this machine. So whenever I go to buy a new machine, I'm probably going to go into debt, and I'm probably going to get a pretty nice new machine. Barn. Well, if I can afford it. If I can't afford it, I'll be rebuilding this old girl. But anyways, I hope that makes sense to you guys. I hope I didn't bore you to death. I'm go back to tree trimming traco style, or tree moving traco style, I guess. So we're making pretty good progress. Get everything thrown out here, get Jerry down here with the dozer, and let him go to town. So hope you guys enjoy. All right. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed that video. If you could just take a few seconds to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe button, and tap the bell so you'll catch the next video. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram and dirtperfect1.com.
Thanks for watching. Bye!
See you on the next one.